Hey everybody, John Malanca here with my co-host Natasha Trenev with the Revolutionary Health Solutions for Chronic Disease. And welcome back, and great to see you, Natasha, as always.
Great to see you, John. And I think there's a lot of misinformation about candidiasis, yeast overgrowth. I think people don't understand how these organisms work in your body. So I'm going to give a little short course about what percentage of bacteria are our cells and how they work in our body so we can understand what the dark side of Candida overgrowth is.
Yeah, and so thanks for throwing that title. And for if you didn't catch that title, it's Candida's Dark Side: How Yeast Overgrowth Fuels Chronic Disease. And the reason we come up with these topics is because you, our listeners, write in. So we so appreciate you giving these topics. I know the last 3 weeks we've covered Candida, and we were about to move on, and more topics have come in here. And it's a big thing. Chronic disease is not a small thing. It's about 129 million people just in America have at least one chronic disease, anything from heart disease, cancer, diabetes, obesity, as well as gut issues, and why we have the mother probiotics here. So take it away, Natasha.
Right. And just to remind you that our $4.3 trillion healthcare spend, 80% of that is spent on chronic disease. And most elderly people, when they reach 60, are on either 5 or more medications. And again, I want to remind you that John and I are not dispensing medical advice, nor substituting the advice of your healthcare practitioner. We're here to impart information so that you can be empowered to know how your body functions. So having said that, I'm going to give you a couple of stats. You are more bacteria or microbes than you are human cells. And that's been proven time and again, whether you believe that you have 50 trillion human cells and about just 100 trillion microbes that line your 27 feet of your digestive tract, and another trillion, maybe 10 trillion that cover your skin. There's bacteria in your brain. There's bacteria up your spinal cord. There's bacteria up your vagus nerve, in your reproductive organs. And it's all about community peace and having the right combination so that no player can become a dark player. That's the objective. And I think what's happened in our country is that we've abused certain chemicals to cause this huge imbalance. And I'll give you an example. Our overconsumption of antibiotics. Antibiotics are very necessary to save your life, but antibiotics do not hurt yeast because yeast is a much more complex organism than a regular bacteria. So when you take antibiotics, whether it's through a pesticide that's being sprayed on your vegetables and fruits, or your lawn, if you're playing golf or live by a huge golf course, it's sprayed with a pesticide, and that's usually a potent antibiotic. Or whether or not you get residue antibiotics in your meats, even on your fruits and vegetables, there's residue antibiotics, which we'll cover in subsequent lessons. So what I want to tell you is that this ignorance has led to a chronic state of illness in this country. As I said, 80% of our healthcare dollar is spent on that, and about 40% of our children are suffering from some disease such as diabetes, overweight, even epilepsy. These diseases were not normal 40 or 50 years ago. They were so little. They were like 0.5% of our population, and now it's skyrocketing. So basically, you as a biological entity were designed to digest foods, to feed your body, to produce new cells, which, by the way, your whole body replaces itself in a year. And so what happens is that each time you chew your food, your digestion starts in the mouth. It goes down to your stomach. The stomach acid is designed to do two things: to digest proteins and to kill bacteria. Now, it not necessarily kills yeast that effectively. So then it goes into your small intestine, where there's bile thrown out, which emulsifies the oil, kills other bacteria that are sensitive to bile. And then your digestion is completed all the way down, possibly the 21 feet or 22 feet of your small intestine, which when spread out can cover a whole tennis court. So there's a lot of action going on there. And through your large intestine, which is part of your colon. and that's another 9 feet. So there's a whole lot of digestion and bacteria and yeast and viruses that are employed in this process of hopefully fueling your body, not just feeding your body. So since bacteria and yeast are opportunistic, they're always looking for ways to take advantage of you, the human host. So whenever there's an imbalance, something will try to cover the territory and overgrow. And invariably, when a yeast or a bacteria is allowed to overgrow in any part of your intestinal tract, it will produce toxins. Those toxins eliminate competition. And when they start overgrowing, like the yeast, it can change its shape and become pathogenic. Most people don't understand that bacteria and yeast can change shapes and can become antagonistic to the body by either taking advantage of the body in its own original form, or it can produce toxins that will start destroying components of the body, such as like a sheathing of neurons or the construction of new cells that need to be done in the body every day. For instance, your cells on the lining of your intestinal tract are replaced every 3 to 7 days. So that's a huge vulnerability for any organism that becomes opportunistic to overgrow. And what happens when it overgrows? Let's just talk about Candida at this point. When yeast is allowed to overgrow, it changes its form. It produces these hyphae, and these hyphae start pumping toxins into your bloodstream. When these toxins reach your bloodstream, they can reach any part of your body, and you'll soon start having a problem with your pancreas. You'll start having problems where you're thinking, because those toxins are being passed up the vagus nerve to your first brain, and it's causing depression, anxiety, mood swings, crying, all of those unpleasant feelings that we get that we think is just hormonal in stage. Well, let me tell you, most often it is started by Candida, and then eventually the hormone levels become disrupted because the optimal flora in the gut recycles hormones. So when that's disrupted, the recycling of hormones doesn't happen, and more of these toxins get pumped into your bloodstream that now go all over your body. And how does your immune system react? Your immune system reacts by destroying what it perceives to be defective cells, and that can be anywhere in your body. But Western medicine gives it disease. We call it arthritis. We call it muscular degeneration. We can call it multiple sclerosis. We can call it muscular dystrophy. Whatever the name of the disease is, it has a start, and there is a genetic predisposition, but genes do not cause disease. It's you that trigger the gene, or the bacteria or the yeast trigger the gene to become active, and then further complicates the issues in your body. So many times people give very simplistic solutions to a very complex problem, like yeast or Candida overgrowth. And unfortunately, as long as I've been in this industry for 56 years, the understanding of Candida and Candida overgrowth, I think, is digressed. It hasn't progressed. And I think that's why we're seeing an explosion of these chronic illnesses, because the last thing a healthcare practitioner or even a doctor will check for, any type of Candida overgrowth in the body. And it doesn't always have to be a blood test. It can be just a sign of symptoms. And I'm going to ask Ashley to throw up the chart, and I can show you what all types of systems and illnesses that we give names in the body can be caused by Candida. As I said, it can be mood swings, depression, anxiety, inability to digest your food, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, just lack of energy, feeling tired all the time, and absolute craving for the sugar. The sugar is a craving that's almost to the point of you being addicted to a over-the-counter or under-the-counter drug. So this is how Candida can have an effect on your body. And many people give simplistic solutions to a very complex problem. So Ash, if you have that slide, can you please throw it up so they can see it? If not, we'll have to show you in the next segment. But basically, here are some of the problems. As I said, you have anxiety, you have depression, you have mood swings, you have imbalanced hormones. It can affect your menstrual cycle. It can affect your prostate. It can affect every portion of your body, every function of your body. You will have excessive bloating. You might even have diarrhea and constipation on a regular basis. Skin rashes. We give names to skin diseases, and we don't know that our underlying factor is either a Candida organism or a pathogen. And so what do? We suppress the immune system, who's there ringing the alarm. Hey, you got a problem down here, fix it. And what do? We put a drug there that quiets the immune response to get rid of the problem. But it doesn't get rid of the problem. It gets rid of the manifestation of the problem. But the problem is still there and can lead to more chronic illness and more problems down the road. So I think as a society, we need to really look hard and long at what's causing these problems, what's in our food that's causing illness in our children, in our society in general, because the spending of healthcare dollars is the most in North America per person than anywhere in the world. And yet we have the largest percentage of chronically ill children and chronically ill adults. So we have to take a long, hard look. So John, if you want to add any thoughts from your personal experience in dealing in this industry, I want to really get people's attention here, because I want to do a thorough presentation where we go down and show you exactly where the Candida hits, what happens with it, and why we have not had success in curbing the growth and the proliferation in our society.
First off, always a pleasure hearing your knowledge, because I know this, you know this. And so thank you for sharing that. You know, for someone who has watched his health his whole life, being an athlete, what I put in my body, I still, and I think I shared this with you, but in 2012, you know, I do my blood tests with my doctors, and I know you talk about blood tests. My naturopath, I came back, I had Candida. I'm like, how did I have Candida? I sleep well, I exercise, I work out, I eat right. And it blew my mind that I had Candida. So I naturally treated it, but I also use probiotics. And this is for our audience. Before knowing you, Natasha, I've been a longtime user of Natron. And when our paths crossed, it was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know who the owners were. And so it's and I do run into that even with my friends, where they don't know Natron, but they know Healthy Trinity, you know, your flagship product. One thing I would add to your Candida overgrowth is you spoke about antibiotics. People always think, oh, I'm going to take a pill. And I said, the one thing that you need to do is really back it up with a probiotic, just to keep the body back to balance. Disease, I like the term dis-ease in the body as well. But eating sugar, and I think maybe that's why I was eating sugar, but I also had a high stress. I was starting a company, and so, but stress levels would do that. I'm not a drinker, but high alcohol. You left out the alcohol, but that's connected with sugar. In turn, a domino effect that can weaken the immune system, which can lead to different ailments, inflammation, but also diabetes. The one thing is that you mentioned at the beginning is that our bodies reset themselves every year. And that's a pretty interesting thing to think, that our how sensitive our bodies are, that we're able to reverse a lot of things with what we eat, what we do with our body, as well as our mindset as well. So I don't want it just to be a scare tactic for everyone listening. But for our listeners that, and again, I don't want to use this as a sales pitch, but can you talk about how they can reverse it, that they're not stuck thinking, oh, well, I'm doomed, and what I can do?
Yes. Our perception of reality and our desire to rebuild our body in a healthy fashion is absolutely available to every human being on this planet. Your body replaces its 50 trillion cells every year. For instance, like your skin cells are replaced every 3 months. So I'm a great believer that there's nothing that you can't do to help your body. The problem is that the solutions that were offered were simplistic and not really in depth, because once you have candidiasis or an overgrowth of any pathogen in your body, it is extremely difficult to eradicate or get rid of, because these are smart entities, a lot smarter than we are. So it's not just the use of probiotics, which has become a term that includes everything under the sun. First of all, I can tell you, I oppose using any yeast organism as a probiotic. I oppose any soil organisms because I know of the potential danger, and I've been doing this for 56 years. So the correct precision probiotics on a specific program designed for each individual will certainly help the body to allow it to reset itself. In addition, you might use antifungal things like oregano oil, peppermint oil, or any other things that you consider. You have to be in charge of your body. You can't just listen to hype on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, because if those things were working, we wouldn't have a growth of chronic illness like we do now. So what I want to say to people is that we have been helping people with candidiasis, overgrowth, whether it's vaginally, intestinally, anywhere in the body. What we do is we tell people we don't treat disease, we don't cure disease. It is the body that can heal itself. We give the body the optimal balance of the right probiotic bacteria. We also tell people, hey, we give you a free low carbohydrate diet that's been working for 20 years. It was designed by me and a medical doctor. And we also give you a free exercise program. You don't have to buy a thing from us. These three things are your starting point. And then you may have to add antifungal. But the most important thing is that you need to get off of the sugars, any kind of sugar, including honey. And no, it's very difficult for most people because we're addicted to it. So the diet is stringent in the first couple of weeks, but believe me, your health is significantly important to you. So you have to decide what it is you want to do. And, I was going to touch alcohol because it's a much more broad topic. You know that yeast organisms and bacteria produce chemicals to defend themselves against other players or to destroy other players. And what most people don't realize, that yeast produce alcohol to get rid of bacteria competition. And so alcohol, which we think of as an antiseptic, because when you have a wound, when people say, here's an alcohol swab, or when they give you a shot, they clean your skin with an alcohol swab, without you understanding that alcohol is a toxic substance produced by yeast to dominate its territory. And even though people say, well, people have been drinking wine with alcohol for centuries, maybe they have. But the problem is they've never had these kind of horrific problems like we do in our society today. So I said, if you suspect you have Candida, you should not touch any alcohol of any kind, even beer and wine. Beer is especially bad because it really stimulates the growth of Candida and will really set you back rather than helping you grow. So all of those of you who have been told things like alcohol is okay in moderation, hear it from somebody who's been doing this for 56 years. It is not okay in our environment with the kind of toxins we have in our soil, our air, our water, and our food for people to be consuming alcohol. Because don't forget, if there is other toxins in the body, when you absorb alcohol, it intensifies the absorption of other toxins that are in your intestinal tract that will destroy your body structure. Not maybe today, not maybe tomorrow, but eventually it will lead to that thing we call dis-ease, which literally stands for lack of ease. So I think we're all need to come to this point where we just stop reading these stats and say, wait a minute, something is horribly wrong, because we're not birthing healthy children. We're not raising healthy children. And we certainly have a society with chronically ill adults that's completely bankrupting our healthcare system to the point where people are giving symptomatic relief to a problem that's underlying with very basic problems.
Well, I think we'll come to the end of this show, but you have a great staff over there, and you've had staff that's been there, or team members, I should say, family that's been there for 28 years at your location, that are ready to answer any questions that you, our audience, may have. Please feel free to give Natasha's company a call. You want to give it to the 800-4-NATREN, N-A-T-R-E-N. Ask for Susan. Ask for Carolyn.
Yeah, that's 866, the number 4, and then you spell out the word Natren, N-A-T-R-E-N. And what we're going to do, we're not telemarketers. These people have been talking to our customers for 14, 16, 20 years, 28 years. They're all dedicated people, and they're not promising you a quick fix. What they're giving you is things that have worked for millions of our customers over the last 42 years in the existence of nature. And this is not a pitch. This is not a marketing ploy. I am deeply concerned about what's going on, and I'm just truly here dedicated to trying to help everybody. That's why if you go on natren.com, you can get my free low carbohydrate diet, my free exercise program. I don't want to charge you. This is not about making a sale. This is about seriously looking at the products that are available to people today to start changing their health and start taking control of their health. So I invite you to talk to these people. They've talked to hundreds, if not thousands of people. I'm sure in 28 years, Susan has talked to thousands of people. And we're really dedicated to try to help you. Again, we're not trying to sell you anything. We're not trying to give you a promo code. Call the number and start talking to someone who you can really identify with and who's there to give you the tools to allow your body to heal itself.
Perfect. Again, 1-866-4-NATREN, N-A-T-R-E-N. And I know you said in promo code, but I'll throw a promo code out for your guest, GUT25, GUT25. But thank you. And Natasha, thank you as well. And please, for our listeners, keep commenting. Please submit your topics that you'd like us to continue on discussing in this series, and we will cover them for you. So I'm here with my co-host, Natasha Trenev. My name is John Malanca, and we'll see you next week's episode. Have a blessed day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.